And we're live. What's up, everybody? I'm here with Meg Emery. Same last name. What does that mean?
I don't know.
So you're my sister.
I am. I'm glad we have that on recording. Every time you try to disown me, I'll just play it back.
Yeah, I can't disown you anymore. It's official.
It is.
So what's going on? What do you do? Let everybody know what you do for this business.
So currently, I run the whole swim department. If it's anything swimming, it comes across me at some point or other.
We have a swim department.
Yeah.
We'll just give the real quick summary of Meg's coaching with Old City career, and then we'll dive deeper. So,
okay.
You started off as a CrossFit coach, right?
I did. I started off as Jen Jacobs assisted at 5 a.m., 6 a.m., and I assisted Aaron at 7 a.m., and then eventually I got the 7 a.m. class. And then I started coaching 9:30 and noon for you guys.
Yeah.
And I miss those days when I was done at noon. Now it's not like till 8 p.m. at night.
Yeah. So then we started doing some CrossFit Kids stuff, right?
Yep. And I ran that with a couple of different coaches. KDR is one of them, and you as well, Sean. His favorite thing in the world.
Yeah. And
then
we sort of started a swim lesson program, just kind of out of the blue, right?
No, first we started Swim WOD.
Yeah, I remember that. The swim program for adults.
Yep, program for adults, both learn to swim and just getting away from the traditional swimming garbage yardage. Instead of adding CrossFit movements and stroke technique work, it's just a harder program to find.
Right. And
then a client emailed us, "Do you guys do swim lessons?" And the birth of the swim lesson began.
Yeah. And
after that.
Then the swim lessons kind of took off in a way that pulled you out of the gym, that made us realize that it was more important to teach swimming than to teach CrossFit to the kids. And then now it's a thing. Now it's a real thing.
Yeah, it's a real thing with a real long weight lens.
Yeah. So you're the program manager of that whole department, right?
Yeah.
What's been the most challenging thing for you, kind of personally, to learn and to grow with, as shifting from a coach and then being a leader in a way. Not that a coach isn't a leader, but going from someone who's doing some work, like showing up to class, instructing the class, and then 2 short years later you're running a program in charge of 30 coaches and hiring and firing and managing, and so what's been the most challenging part of that journey?
For me, it's been the growth. I've always been reluctant, but I've had some people pushing me, say, "Nope, we're ready, we're gonna do it." And then also not being the coach, being so the way swim lessons are set up, for those people that know, we have about 11 coaches in the water. We have people on deck managing the coaches, and that's been my role, managing the coaches. And that's the hardest thing for me to having to learn, is to how to manage them when they don't necessarily do things the way I would necessarily do them, but they still work. They have great ideas.
Yeah, it's the idea of if somebody does things correctly but differently, it's still correct.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I learned that lesson in the Navy. I had a captain, Commander Wes Gwynn. He's an amazing captain, and he would always come out and ask, like, "Oh, why'd you make that decision?" or "Why'd you make this decision?" And regardless of, he would even watch us make bad decisions that were still, or literally wrong decisions, but still decisions that kept the ship safe. Not decisions that were going to run you aground or put the crew at jeopardy or anything. He wouldn't watch that unfold and then come out and give you a teachable moment when the ship's on a sand dune.
That'd be pretty funny, but
so he would let a mistake happen, and then he'd come out and then he'd ask, why'd you do that?
Yeah.
How'd this happen? How can we prevent it? And he would give us the freedom to make mistakes, learn from them, teach us about those mistakes, and then grow from them. And I thought that was a really powerful lesson in giving someone enough rope to learn how to lead,
Yeah.
right? And so it sounds like similar stuff is, you know, maybe not, you know, you're making all these mistakes and
Yeah.
and people are coming up to you like, Meg, you're screwing up, but it seems like that's what's happening with you.
Yeah, definitely.
That's cool. All right, so let's back up. What's it like working with your family?
I actually like it a lot. At times, don't get me wrong, it's challenging because we just know each other really well, but that's also a blessing, especially for me. Everyone basically knows this. I'm dyslexic, so we definitely, like, we were in a meeting and it was something came around and it was like, Meg writing something
Yeah.
by herself is not going to be a productive use of her time. And it's just them knowing my strengths and my weaknesses and realizing that writing, or for me, in my case, writing doesn't play towards my strength. For you, it's other stuff. We know what your strengths is because we know each other so well.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. One thing for me that I like about, you know, the idea of working with family is that no one wants to ruin Christmas. You know, there's a lot of pressure.
Wait, I thought I already did that.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll get to that. But there's a lot of pressure in, you know, like not ruining Christmas. And the idea of that is, I'm not going to, like, if something happens and we have a disagreement or, you know, things go sideways in a little bit, if we were just regular business partners, then I might let my tempered emotion get the best of me and say things that I regret. But because I have to see you at Christmas and I can't avoid you, then it forces me to be a little more tempered in my responses, and it forces me to be a little more thoughtful with how I engage.
Yeah.
And then I started thinking, well, why don't I treat everyone like that? like, why does that matter?
And just so everyone knows, Sean's and I's relationship hasn't always been the best. Like, we very much butt heads in almost everything.
Yeah.
And so, like, this has also improved our relationship so much. Like, when we first started the business together, correct me if you think something different, Sean and I, it's the typical big brother, little sister relationship. Pick on me, call me stupid, and all those other brotherly loving things.
I mean, maybe not like when we started the business, but like a few years before that, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, growing up with the Sean dog in the house, I imagine that's tough.
Yeah, luckily you got out when I was just in 5th grade or 6th grade.
Yeah, so we're 6 years apart.
Yeah, 6, 7.
6 years older.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I know.
You were born in '88.
I was.
So let's talk about that a little bit. So growing up, you're my little sister. Obviously, I pick on you and I make fun of you and I'm mean to you and I'm a jerk to you and.
Oh yeah.
And then so we'll just kind of lay the whole framework. So Erin and I, my older sister, 3 years older, and then Erin and I started the business, and then we quickly brought Meg on as a coach. And then there's young little Molly, who's our tiny little baby, who was born in, 90? So
90.
she's 2 years younger than you.
Yeah.
And she, now she's in Boston. So she's not really part of the business. We briefly hired her to be our gym admin person, and we basically had to fire her because she was terrible.
Or you just need more timely responses. One or the other. And her full-time job didn't allow for that.
That's probably.
I got your back, Molly.
So what's it like growing up in that family?
So growing up, I mean, I was always supported. Our family is very supportive, even when we are picking on each other. It was full of laughs. It definitely, like the younger sister, Monopoly. Oh man, before me and Molly could read, rules got made up. It's right here in the rule book. Just read it. Like, no merging of two people with the name, the first name starts with M.
Yeah, we would definitely take advantage. I'm going to say Aaron was complicit, but it was probably just me. Take advantage of Meg and Molly's inability to read, and we would make up rules, and I'd pick up the rule book and start reading it. Obviously, I'd be making up any rule I wanted. They're like, read it for yourself. So I'm probably responsible for teaching you how to read, giving you the motivation.
Well, Molly claims to talk. I started speaking late, and it wasn't until Molly was born that I started really putting words in sentences.
Yeah, so you're dyslexic. You mentioned that earlier. What is that?
So dyslexia is, if you hear me read something, I will add, take out words, make it make sense in my mind, but out loud it doesn't necessarily come across fluid. It's just the way my brain's wired. It's wired differently than everyone else's, and it's a lot slower for me to read like stuff silently. If you see me write, it's pretty hysterical.
So, I mean, the standard way people think about dyslexia is you mix up words and letters. And you kind of swap them.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
For me, yes, but I don't I see the word, but I don't process it the same way, and like my brain will just like, if I see 10 words on the page, I might put them in different order, take them out, whatever makes sense to me.
Okay, so it's not necessarily so it's not your eyes seeing things different. You see the word as it is.
Yeah.
But when the word goes to the brain, it goes through a jumbler.
Yeah, I never thought about that one.
And then it spits out something that makes sense to you that doesn't make sense to anybody else on the planet.
And then with that also, I had delayed speech, and I was in speech therapy from the age of 3 all the way to 9th grade, when I was finally like, guys, it's as good as it's gonna get.
Yeah. So delayed speech. So you didn't start, because I remember that, you didn't start talking until what, you were 2?
2.5 when Molly was born. That's what Mom told.
Yeah. And so then Molly comes along, and Molly's not dyslexic, and Molly, you could argue, has normal growth development, and so you're kind of like, Molly's right on your heels in terms of age, but in terms of development, you're kind of lockstep. So what's that like? What was that scenario?
So I actually started school a year late. So Molly and I are 2 years apart in age, and then going through school, she was always a year behind me, which was interesting, but also had its challenges as well. It was fun. Because we always had the same teacher. Like, we could have had all the same teachers.
Right.
But going with Molly just being so close to me in age, as we were younger, like, definitely tension and, like, everything. And then when it came to sports, she was always just a little bit better than me. Like, a lot better than me.
Yeah. So Molly's super athletic.
Yeah.
And you're not athletic.
I do my best.
Well, and we'll dive into it, but it's crazy because you're a testament to like how athletic people can become when they're not born with like what I would consider just general athleticism.
Yeah.
Like Molly, Aaron, and I think like could fall out of bed and do more athletic things than you.
Yes.
If you fall out of bed, it's probably because you're trying to get out of bed.
Yes. Yes, I am very clumsy. I broke my arm going uphill on a scooter, and broke my foot skipping across the gym floor, thanks to a friend.
Yeah, but I mean, within that clumsiness in athleticism, I mean, you swam at a collegiate level.
Yeah.
You were the captain of a collegiate swim team.
Yeah.
You're really good at CrossFit.
Yeah.
So it's people, when I talk to people and they're like, oh, I can never do a pull-up, I'm not athletic, or I could never do that, I'm not athletic. I look at them like, no, let me introduce you to the least athletic person I know on this planet who's actually really athletic.
Yeah.
And it's, to me, it's interesting how with no, like, y'all, Meg's athleticism is 0. I mean, let's be honest.
Sean always says he'll only be on my team for 2 things: Lord of the Rings trivia and Harry Potter trivia.
Right.
And I think I can add code names to that, maybe.
Maybe, but yeah, trivia. Not like I'm surprised every time Meg catches a ball that I throw at her. It's shocking. It's a moment of celebration. But to me, so if you're starting with zero athleticism, I feel like people are going to listen to this and be like, man, Sean, you're a jerk.
I know.
But this is really a compliment. This is sincerely a compliment. When it's a testament to how good you can get at something when you don't have those core skills, in your pocket.
Yeah.
People say, "Oh, I can't do a pull-up. I'm not athletic." No, you can do a pull-up.
Yeah.
I can do a pull-up.
Yeah,
Right.
I literally, when I started CrossFit serious CrossFit in 2011, when I graduated college, I could not do a pull-up. Literally, my coach at the time had me do a negative, and I got up, jumped up to the bar, tried to hold my chin, and I was not even there for a second, and I came back down. He's like, Mag, I told you to hold it. I was like, I can't.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
And eventually I really wanted that pull-up, and I got it.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember watching you do a pull-up and literally being shocked. I had to take a knee and think about life and regret all the bad things I've ever said about you. And it's an amazing thing. It's fun to watch you obviously grow as an athlete and grow as a CrossFitter. But let's go back to you as a swimmer. And you as a kid. We were talking about you kind of growing up with Molly.
Yeah.
Molly kind of right at your heels. You're not really born with that general athleticism. Molly more so was. And you guys were fortunate enough to be born into a family. Aaron and I, we were swimming all the time. And so if mom and dad were taking us to the pool, well, Meg and Molly are coming. And since you're at the pool, you might as well swim as well.
Yeah.
And I think our swim club in Texas was the fourth kid's free.
Yeah.
So Molly didn't have a choice. She was obviously swimming.
Yeah.
So you both grew up as swimmers, and you're 2 years apart, a year apart in school, so you're kind of going through that progression in the same way. So what was that like? You were sort of talking about how it was challenging for you to be, to be the bigger sister, but to be kind of the behind in a way, swimming or, all these other things.
So Molly and I in high school, we actually swam basically the same events. Both distance freestyle. She just has that more natural stroke, more elegant stroke. And I just had to work a little bit more for it. And I was never quite as fast. And there were some dinner conversations when Molly was talking about stuff, and I was like, I just can't do this anymore. I would lose it because I was just so frustrated to where my younger sister was faster. But
so she conversations what she would be talking about,
winning,
doing good things, and
not necessarily winning. It's something that the senior group at in Coburg, whatever it is now, our club team got to do, or different stuff like that, and it was something to that effect. I don't exactly remember what.
Yeah, but it would just be the general idea that, I mean, you are and were certainly a great swimmer.
Yeah.
Molly was better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so dealing with that dichotomy and having to be at the dinner table hearing someone, who's talking about things that you want also.
Yeah, exactly.
But your talent just didn't quite get you there.
Yeah.
So.
But arguably, because I didn't necessarily have that talent, I got to do other stuff. I actually horseback ride. Yeah, let's go with it. Took horseback riding lessons until I broke my arm, and then for some reason I went back to swimming. Man.
How old?
I started in Texas, and then we continued for about until 8th grade, and
I didn't know that. Or maybe I forgot that.
You knew it, but because I had used it as a fact before.
Oh yeah. But I will forget that one again.
But so I got to do I just continued exploring sports, whereas Molly did swimming and soccer, and then because her talents were more focused on swimming, went that way. And arguably, because I wasn't the best at swimming, I was able to leave practice early and go coach in the summer my Burke Center, my summer swim team. Starting at the age of 15. Yes, Molly did that, but
you ran the team.
I didn't run the team. I was I was a junior assistant coach was technically my title.
Sure, yeah, but still, all right. So that's a really good point, and I think that's an interesting, like, there's a really interesting story with your life, Meg. That's fascinating, and so you and Molly were in these high level swimming programs. But since Molly was better, she was, in the more senior groups that required more training. They, got more coaching, and your level just wasn't there, and so you had more time.
Yeah.
And so with that time, you were horseback riding. You were doing this coaching. So your first coaching gig was with the summer league swim team in Virginia.
Yep.
And that's
Brooks and Stingers.
So you were working with that team for a few years?
So when we moved to the area, a couple things you always do as swimmers was first find a club team.
Yeah, so we moved so when I went to college, the family moved from Texas up to Northern Virginia. Mm-hmm. How old were you guys?
I was in 6th grade. Funny story. I got demoted when I went up here because I started in Texas and that was in middle school. So I had 6 weeks of middle school. Then when I moved to Virginia, 6th grade's part of elementary school. So I got demoted.
So you went from middle school to elementary school?
So I got two elementary school graduations though.
That's pretty nice. So when you moved to Northern Virginia, then you got set up with another club swim team, Curl Burke, which is, we left Alamo Area Aquatics, which was kind of ran by this guy, George Block, who's, the godfather of swimming. He's the president of the World Swimming Coaches Association. Yeah. When swim coaches go through Texas, they see Coach Block. He doesn't see them. And then you move to Northern Virginia with another, godfather type swim club, Pete Morgan, right?
Yeah, I never swam for Pete. I swam for Kristen Tolley, but yeah.
But it's the Pete Morgan program, and Pete Morgan's responsible for countless Olympians, and a lot of great swimmers come out of Curl Burke, including Meg Emery.
Katie Ledecky is the current one.
That's right. She's a Curl Burke person?
Technically now it's NCAP, but yes.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you're going through high school swimming, age group swimming, high school swimming, and Molly's sort of overshadowing you in the pool, and that's a challenging thing, but it also gave you more opportunities.
Yeah.
Was there any more challenge to it than just kind of?
Especially like when Molly was a very fast swimmer. Love her. She started breaking records, and like I was never that fast. Basically, I was on the swim team for high school 1 year. Molly came in the next year, and basically Molly started swimming in all the same events as me, and like we would compete. But swimming's an interesting dynamic to where you're competing, but you're also competing against yourself.
Yeah, like you have your own personal records.
Exactly.
And you're in an event, but it's not like Molly's performance or another swimmer's performance doesn't directly affect you. Like if you were wrestling together, then obviously one person's actions affect another person's. But so sorry. Anyway.
Yeah. But when she started getting those records, I remember seeing several meet sheets with Emery, and I'm Meg Emery, Molly Emery. It's the same initials. So I would jokingly be like, "Oh, that's me," like to like friends who knew it was Molly. They would get laughs, but like that was always hard to see, and like. But, ultimately, I think it made me, like, who I am, like, accepting defeat so well. Not well, but, like, just helping me accept it and stuff like that.
Yeah. I got really good at accepting defeat. That sounds terrible.
It does, but it also, like, just helps you build and, like, it helps you understand, like, okay, there's always going to be people better than you. How can you find the positive in this situation?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And, the interesting thing is there's people better than Molly. You know? And
exactly.
there's always someone better than you.
Yeah.
Like, the odds of you being the best in the world, the odds of you being Michael Phelps, Katie Ledecky are basically zero. Like, you're not going to be that person.
Yeah.
And so learning how to overcome defeat, And I would imagine though it's a lot harder when like what you're training for is there kind of at the dinner table every night. You know,
Yeah.
like you want those records, you
Yeah.
want to win the races, you want the glory that comes with that, but you're not getting any of it.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
no,
tough.
it was very tough. But also with that, I knew. So I swam for a small Division III school called Lycoming College. I started getting that when I went to Lyco because I found a team that my times fit in with, and like competitive. I held the 800 free relay record for a while.
So you got Emery.
I
So Molly's going up to Lycoming and saying, let's check out my records.
Yeah, it was Emery, but yeah, I got it. And like I don't know if I know Molly never got it, and I know I'm not sure about you and Aaron, but like we won a conference championship.
Yeah.
And so I started getting more of that stuff in college, and like I was always in my events, I was always the upper one in certain events, and like I was never towards the bottom, where in like high school I was always middle to bottom.
Yeah.
If that makes any
For sure, yeah, 100%. So that's sort of the athletic journey, and that makes a lot of sense how it started to, you know, you change the environment and surround yourself with, you know, anyway, that's really cool. Was there any, with the dyslexia, and you were sort of talking about developing a little slower and being delayed a year in school, and was there any similar trajectory as with the athletic with that, you know?
I always thought it was better because I was a year older, so I should have graduated high school in 2006 if I was like truly like with my year. And I was always a year older and able to, like, I wouldn't have been ready in 8th grade when I was in 9th grade. Like, I should have been in 9th grade, but I wouldn't have been ready. Like, where I could have been. Yeah. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, totally. So, delaying a year just, sorry, excuse me. It doesn't just affect that first year, obviously. It's every single year you're, you know, not behind a year, but delayed a year, however you want to think about it. How was the Meg Molly dynamic with that? You know, was it similar stuff as with swimming, where, you know,
it was,
you and Molly are taking similar classes and, you know, grades? How's that?
It was interesting, but the only time it really came into play was math. Like, I was always with everyone at the same thing, but math was 8th grade. You could have opted for algebra. My algebra teacher literally excited us 100 problems per night, and with how slowly I do stuff, it wasn't feasible. I was getting home, I was going to swimming, doing all this stuff. It was 11 o'clock at night before I was even finishing that.
Yeah.
So Mom and Dad and I all decided like it wasn't worth it, and we went back to. So Molly always was we were always on the same math track, if that makes any sense.
So Molly was a year ahead of math, or Molly stayed with the you know, whatever the advanced track, whatever that track was with math, and then you slipped a year behind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we were always on the same trajectory, which honestly didn't really affect, but where it would come in frustrating, it was like she, not necessarily anything I always said, but it was always frustrating to like, I would have to listen to stuff. If I hear it, I remember it. Mm-hmm. Whereas Molly can just sit and read a book like really fast and like understand it, and like, but I would have to listen, and that would just take more time. So it always took me longer to do my homework, which at times can be frustrating. Yeah, and studying for tests, and I would always have to start writing papers earlier. And when I was writing papers in high school, I would give them to my parents for proof, and man, was it like mostly red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's really interesting about school is there's, like, Molly's a perfect example. Her talents are perfectly aligned with the way school is taught. You know, she can read books, she can do her homework, she can do her reading assignments, and then she can, you know, write the paper or whatever. I'm a lot more like you with how I learn to learn. Yeah. And I need to listen, I need to talk to somebody, and I need to have a conversation about a topic, and then I can really, like, it's in my head, it's there. And when you go through school and you don't learn the way that Molly learns, you don't learn the way that school teaches you, you kind of feel like a dummy.
Yeah.
And that's tough.
Yeah. It was, so for me, I started school in San Antonio with an IEP, or whenever I got diagnosed, I had an IEP. For those who don't know what it means, I think it's individual learning plan. Essentially, it's a common...
IEP?
Oh, IE, education plan.
There we go.
It's basically accommodations that I need to learn my best. And for me, I always had the option of having the test read for me. And if that wasn't an option, it was extended time. So like the SAT, however long it normally is, I had time and a half. And oh man.
You needed all that half.
I needed all the half, but it made for a really long day.
Yeah, for sure.
I forget how long the SAT is, but like time and a half on that.
Yeah, that's challenging. So some struggles going through high school, a lot of struggles going through, high school swimming, kind of with the Molly dynamic. And then, so you go on to college, you're at Lycoming. The swimming scenario, like you were saying, gets better.
Yeah.
And then, what was the school situation when you got to college?
It's a completely different world. Like, unlike public schools where you have the IP, you don't necessarily have that in college. You have to be more of an advocate for it. And when I first got there, the guy who was in charge of all that stuff wasn't there. He was kind of on sabbatical sick leave. He was my advisor, but he wasn't there to kind of help and guide me.
Yeah.
And so it's I got my first English paper back that I had, we were only supposed to have an outline. I had the whole paper written, and necessarily understand a word or know what a word is, but with that, it's just making sure that the teachers and everyone know you and know you're going to do your hardest, and understand this is just in case.
Yeah. And did you find that once you sort of learn the avenues for self-advocation or whatever, then things got easier, or you just now had the tools or whatever to do better?
Both. It was going to college, maybe not for Naval Academy, might be a little different. Going to college is a very scary, you're now essentially by yourself. You no longer you have the support, but they're not right there telling you what to do, and it's a completely different environment.
Yeah.
So I had to, this paper's due now. This paper's not due until X date. The teacher wants an outline. I had the paper written because I knew it was going to take me that long to get the paper anyway. Yeah. And then it's also freshman year, I didn't know who was good at stuff, so I went to the writing center. They didn't really understand what I needed. They help, but
you had to feel out the whole scenario.
And you had to, and it was also finding friends who are awesome at grammar and can help me understand, kind of get that writing that I needed.
When did you really lock down your learning style? When did you start to realize that if you heard things, you remembered them? Was that a high school thing? Was that
That was really early on. So there's this program called Recording for Blind and Dyslexic.
Really?
Yeah. It's now called Learning Alley or something to that effect. And I would get books on tape, and I would just read. I read most of Jane Austen by the time I was done with high school.
Wow.
Before I started coaching all the summers, I would literally sit on a porch in Burke and just read books.
Wow. Just by the audible listening.
By listening to them, and that's Sean. One of the reasons Sean will always be on my team for Harry Potter is because I used to listen to Harry Potter books, Lord of the Rings, just over and over again instead of music.
Right.
So I can remember some of the Sorting Hat song of Year 4 just because I heard it so much. Right.
Yeah, because you're listening to these books. I mean, obviously, people who read the books and listen to the books on tape are listening for entertainment.
Yeah.
But you're just on repeat.
Yeah.
You finish it and then you start again. You're like, oh, well, let me listen to. People are like, oh, I love this album for whatever. You're like, oh man, I love chapter 4 of book 6. Oh man, it's a great chapter.
Yeah.
Hey, we're driving down to the farm or wherever. You wanna listen to chapter 8 of book 2? This is a classic. You're gonna love this. Listen to the narration of this. It's cool. All right, so you sort of knew your learning style going into college, and then it was just a matter of figuring out the right way to get what you needed to succeed.
Yeah.
So what'd you study?
Oh man. My degrees are in business administration and corporate communication. Then in business administration, I double tracked in marketing and management.
Marketing, management, and business communication.
Corporate communication.
Corporate communication. So.
And let me just say, it sounds like a lot, but the corporate communications degree came in junior year. I took one class, the first class. And basically, I had 4 more classes to make it a double degree, and all like the electives and the CCOM were like part of my business degree. So it just kind of worked out, and I needed credit hours, so I wasn't just taking pointless classes.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you double majored.
I did double major.
Wow, I barely majored.
And fun fact, out of all the Emerys, I had the highest GPA, I believe.
Yeah, what'd you graduate with?
3.5.
Graduated with a 2.1. So very low. I never got an A in college.
Oh, I did.
I didn't get one single A. Got a lot of C's and D's. A lot.
I got a couple C's and D's, but not very many D's.
My best semester, I got a 3.0 and it was all B's.
Nice.
I crushed it.
Yeah.
My best semester.
I took the way LICO set up is a full load's 4 classes, no matter what classes they are. And so one semester I was able to take 3 classes. I got 2 A's and an A-.
Wow. That's awesome. Cool. So you swam through all 4 years, and you ended up being the captain of Lycoming, right? How was that? Was being the captain of a team, was that a different challenge, or was it just kind of more of the same? And
it was a different challenge in aspect that I was also a freshman RA. So I was an RA my final 2 years of college, and the way LICO is set up, the freshmen are in dorms of themselves, and the upperclassmen are all in the other dorms. LICO's 1,500. You have to live on campus unless you live within 30 miles of the school.
Right.
I was just shy of that. Okay, way far away. But so it was really cool. Everyone was on campus. But with that is I was an RA in the freshman dorm, so like I have like more power in that regard because like people have to listen to me like in that regard. And then I'm coming over to swim team. And then I'm a captain, like, yeah, I, like, joke around with them then, but, like, when I'm in the dorms, they, like, the one thing I did ask is all the freshmen were always on the same floor. I asked the RA supervisor, and I was like, hey, my second year, I was like, I don't want to be on the swimming floor. Like,
I see.
Because I just didn't want to be, their daily RA, if that makes sense. I would only be the RA if I was, like, on duty and stuff went down that night.
Right.
I was having to manage that whole
Interesting.
thing.
Cool. So your senior year, what year did you win the conference championship?
Junior year.
Junior year.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And actually, I was listening to your sports podcast with Liam, and he says, like, memories can bring you back. If I hear, this is going to sound really silly, but if I hear the song Shots, like, as soon as we heard, like, we won championships, like, I just go back to that moment. Like, even if I'm in the middle of a workout, like, I literally just, like, get that like excitement, like I can feel like us running up there, like jumping up and down, like I just feel that moment.
That's
again.
awesome. What song?
Shots.
How's that song go?
Like shot, 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 shot.
No one in the world knows what song you're talking about.
It's called Shots.
It's called Shots?
I'm pretty sure. 98% sure.
Is that the one that's like shot, shot, shot,
yes.
shot, 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 everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, still, I'm a terrible singer, so still nobody knows what song we're talking about. But I guess look it up. There's a song called Shots. I have a similar thing where I don't know if they make them anymore, but Starbursts made hard candies, kind of like Jolly
Yeah.
Ranchers for a while, and I had a bowl of them in my car at the same time that I was, the swim season was kind of over, so we weren't necessarily training with the whole group of people, but I was having to drive. They were doing pool maintenance on our normal pool, and I was having to drive like across town to get to the northeast pool, and we were training with just a core group of people that were going 2 or 3 weeks deeper into the season for whatever, and I forget what it was, but it was a totally miserable part because you're not really with any of your friends. Everyone's enjoying the summer, and you're still training for a meet that I guess I should care about, but really like I got to that meet because I did so well. Like I've already peaked at this other meet, and that was awesome, and now I'm just training more for this other meet that I got allowed to go to because I swam well enough or whatever. And I would eat these Jolly Rancher things, these Jolly Rancher hard candy, listening to Pearl Jam. And so anyway, now whenever I hear Pearl Jam or taste the Starburst hard candy like flavors, it all 3 of those memories just come together, and it's like this awesome memory because Pearl Jam is cool, and I like Pearl Jam, and the Starbursts are awesome. But whenever I hear those 2 things, I think of the misery of that swim time.
So really funny. So there's something in college called Hell Week. Basically, when semesters are over, winter semester and before spring semester, where you stay on campus and just train 24 hours a day, essentially. It's called Hell Week at Lyco. There's something called Super Highlander when you start, like you have like 3 minutes to swim a 200, and it goes down by seconds until the last person is like finishing a 50. So it starts at 3 minutes, goes all the way down to like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And you're just basically swimming. My coach one year thought it would be a brilliant idea to play Christmas carols during that whole time. So 4 hours of like pain and like hellish stuff, Christmas carols for a couple years were just like, no.
Well, luckily you didn't hear it like the whole time, only when you were like on the wall.
No,
right?
so no, the cool thing about Lyco is we had an underwater speaker.
What?
Yeah.
I've never been swimming in a pool with an underwater speaker.
It is really cool. Like, it was like...
You can hear it, like, crystal clear?
Yeah, really well. And it's also kind of stinks when your coach is yelling at you because he has a microphone. But,
really?
yeah. It was really cool. I loved it. It became boring when I came to other pools.
Wow.
Like, we had dance parties at the bottom of the pool sometimes.
That's incredible. No, every swim practice it was just silence and just misery in my own head.
You're like, would this have made it better?
Yeah, I don't know if music would have made it better. I think part of what I missed when swimming was over was that internal, just continuous internal dialogue.
Part of what I miss is that exactly this whole that and like when I'm swimming, actual swimming, like I can't talk to anyone. I have to be in my own head.
Yeah, it's like a form of meditation in a way.
I have to think, okay, I'm just going to flip. Like, I just might turn my mind off, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know my stroke counts. I don't know all this other stuff. I just swim. It's very natural. It will never go away. At least I don't think.
Yeah.
But it's, and when I have a cold, I miss it in that point. Because when I dive into the pool, like, I just get that moment of relief.
Oh, where you blow all your snot in water, and then everybody else has to swim with that snot?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool. No, cool. That's nice. Good work, man. No, that's interesting. So you graduate college, and what happened after that?
So when I graduated college, I had an internship with the government, DTEC, Defense Technical Information Center. And for that summer, it was very monotonous work. We put stuff on a Wikipedia type of page about nanoscience, and I actually hated it all. So fun fact, if you Google DTIC and Margaret Emery, nanoscience, I pop up as a contributing editor.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's nanoscience?
It's the smallest form of science.
It's the smallest form of science. Okay, all right. Meg's spoken, y'all. Nanoscience is the smallest form of science. Okay.
Like the little things, like
The
small...
little science. There's macro science, which is big science.
Yeah.
There's nanoscience, which is the smallest form of science.
Yes.
Science can't get smaller than nanoscience.
I believe so. I'm not sure.
Wow. All right. No, that's cool. That's cool.
So yeah.
So you were working.
I did that for until September. I just hated the monotony of it. It was the same thing every single day. I was literally, if it hadn't been for a few friends there, I would have gone crazy.
But it's a job.
It's a job, which
And
is
so,
really good.
So you were doing this monotonous,
Yeah.
basically just putting things on the internet.
Exactly.
Filing things
Yeah.
onto the internet that people are going to Google and find
Yeah.
who want to find them.
Yeah.
And that was your first job out of college?
That was my first job as an internship. Then that ended, and then I wasn't employed for the longest of times. Then a few months later, I started volunteering at a volunteer center. Volunteered for them. A week into volunteering with them, I was brought on as a staff member because someone was leaving and they needed an event planned.
So you were also coaching during this time, right?
Yeah.
So you mentioned a while ago that you were coaching with the summer swim team.
Mm-hmm.
Did that keep up? Were you continuing to coach the summer team?
So I coached summer swim team from the age of 15 all the way through my first year of college.
Okay.
That summer I coached. Then the next summer I did some internships and could no longer coach.
Okay. And then when did you start coaching again? Was it after
When
you graduated?
I still coached a little bit in college, both I just didn't necessarily coach the teams. I coached at Colebrook for some of the lessons in the summer, and then when I was home from college, Kim asked me to help out.
Cool. And then you finished college, and then you were coaching with Curl Burke, or you were teaching swim lessons?
I was teaching swim lessons, I believe. I don't exactly know.
Right.
But I coached with them for a while, and then I got hired on part-time with Coburg, not Coburg, Volunteer Fairfax, and then I planned the event for them, got hired part-time once my contract ran out with them, got hired part-time, and eventually it led to a full-time job with them.
At Volunteer Fairfax?
At Volunteer Fairfax.
So you started volunteering?
Started volunteering with them.
And then, so you planned an event with them?
Mm-hmm.
What event?
The annual breakfast, volunteer award, something to that effect.
Cool.
And then during my time there, I planned events with them. I planned something called Volunteer Fest, several years for them in a row, and then several days of services for businesses. So I've helped out with Deloitte Day. We've done stuff. I did stuff with USA newspaper.
So you were kind of the Volunteer Fairfax event planner?
One of them, yeah.
Did you enjoy that? Was it as monotonous?
No, I loved it because it wasn't. You can't plan the same event twice. But the struggle for me in that job was writing, because you would have to write after action reports, you have to write emails and stuff like that. And in a workplace, unlike education where it's all open, it's not as open as at least for me, it wasn't as open.
What do you mean open?
Like, I didn't tell them I was dyslexic. Whereas, like, in school, you always have these plans in place. Whereas in the workplace, you can have that, but mine isn't as, like, seeable. Like, if you're just talking to me, you don't know that I'm dyslexic.
Right.
And that my writing's gonna, like, stink. So they didn't know until I got my 6-month review, and they're like, you're doing everything, but your writing, man, is awful.
Right.
And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm dyslexic. Like, I didn't tell them until then because I don't want to hold them against me.
Yeah, did they change how they worked with you, or what
A little bit. That was a interesting period of time. They changed. My supervisor wanted me to find a class to, like, get better get better at that. And then during this whole time frame, they realized they couldn't manage money, and they couldn't afford to keep me on. And they actually laid me off, giving me 2 months notice. So, like, yeah. But it actually was
So hold on.
Yeah.
So you got laid off with 2 months notice. So that means they fired you, but they paid you for 2 more months.
I was working for them, so they said your last day is gonna be this day.
And then they made you work for 2 more months after they fired you.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
That's crazy. Well, I guess it's nice to give you 2 months warning.
Yeah, exactly.
So, so you were doing this event planning job,
Mm-hmm.
and you were enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I thought yeah.
Yeah, you were enjoying it, and you're doing good. It's just the part of the job that was challenging is the part of your life that is not as good as other people's, and probably will never be because of your dyslexia and everything. So writing was really hard in that job, and your supervisors were trying to work with you on that. But they were working with you in a way that was just basically telling you to get better at it.
Yeah, exactly.
They weren't. Were they giving you any other sort of assistance?
Not really.
Was there a way to do that job without the writing, or was writing sort of a requirement of that job?
I think there probably was, like, just, I don't know. Like, I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
There probably was a way to do it without so much writing and having me necessarily do the final reports and all that stuff. But
so you were working in DTIC. You did that job. That job kind of finished.
Yeah.
And then you said you were unemployed for a while, doing swim stuff.
Doing swim stuff, yeah. Lifeguarding and doing all that jazz.
Lifeguarding, swim coaching,
Yeah.
swim lessons at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, how long was that, quote unquote, unemployment stint before you landed this job at Volunteer Fairfax?
Honestly, at this point, I forget.
But
Yeah.
years, like a year.
No, I would say 6 months.
6 months.
3 months.
Yeah, like a long period of
Yeah.
time where you're actively looking for work.
Oh yeah.
And then you're just striking out, and then you volunteer for this job. You knock a project, like you do a project so well that they hire you.
No, actually, it was like a week on the job. The event planner was leaving. They needed to bring on some more people to help plan this event.
So they were desperate.
I
And you were a warm body.
think it was right place, right place,
Yeah.
right time. Honestly.
And you were volunteering.
Yeah.
And you were there.
Yeah,
And that's-
exactly.
Yeah, I mean that's a really interesting lesson. Is a lot of people are looking for work and doing these things, and sometimes the best way to get your foot in the door is just to volunteer.
Yeah.
Say, hey, what can I do for you for free?
Yeah.
And crush it. And if you do really good work, then you're going to get opportunities that you wouldn't be afforded if you just kind of sat back and said, give me money first.
Yeah.
And so you went in and you were volunteering and you crushed it, and then you were doing this job for how long?
About a year and a half.
Okay, so
it was 2 part-times, and then they brought me on full-time at 6 months-ish.
Right.
For full-time employment.
so you had this job you didn't like.
Yeah.
Then you had a period where you were really looking for work and couldn't really find it, and then you got a job.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like your first job that you like.
Yeah.
That's a long-term job.
Yeah.
And you're happy.
Yeah.
Like, things are good. Like you're doing really, really good work, and you're doing a job that you like, and obviously the job has some struggles, and you're cruising, and you're like, you feel like you're starting your career, and like event planning is kind of your thing now.
Yeah.
And then they fire you.
Yeah.
What was that like? What was that, when...
It was, so the way it happened, so in my head I always plan worst case, just so everyone knows. Like the way it happened was just like really weird. I was organizing supplies. We had a supply thing off from where the office was, and they're like, oh, hey Meg, can you come back? And I'm like, why? It's like, am I gonna, like, what are you, oh, I want to meet with you and someone else, and I'm like, that's weird. And so, like, then they're like, oh, we're going to let you go starting this date. We realize we can't afford to have this many people. We mismanaged. Essentially, it came down, they were mismanaging money.
Well, that's what they told you.
Yeah. And just to back up a little bit here, before this had even happened, thought about it, Sean, my brother, sitting across from me, was having conversations with me and was like, Meg, you're not playing towards your strengths. You are very good at communicating to people. You love to coach people. He's like, you should go get your CrossFit level 1 because during this whole period I'm CrossFitting.
Yeah, you're at CrossFit Lorton?
No, so when I was working at DTIC, I was at CrossFit Lorton, and then at this point I'm at CrossFit Fairfax.
Yeah, and CrossFit Fairfax is like one of the original, like super early CrossFitters.
Yeah.
Jeff
So,
Tincher.
Jeff, basically Greg Glassman, who I've met now, is basically Greg went up to Jeff and was like, "You should start a CrossFit gym."
Cool.
Yeah.
So you're doing CrossFit in this really good CrossFit gym. You're getting, I mean, you're in phenomenal shape at this point.
Mm-hmm.
You're really good at CrossFit. You just got fired.
Yeah.
From a career that you thought was, starting to take off, and now I would imagine now you're kind of back in this mindset of like, oh man, I'm back at square one. Now it's, just when you thought you were going to kind of break out and start your career, you're back to square one.
Yes and no. Like that day, like I was upset right when it happened. They let me go early that day. That day, I went up and signed up for my CrossFit Level 1.
Yeah.
Like literally like hours after it happened. So, and that was the best thing I ever did.
So what was that transition like? How did you make that mental leap? How did you go from, how did you turn the bad news into the good news? What was that transition like?
I don't know why. Like, you had planted the seed. If you hadn't planted the seed, because you had told me that you love working with children. You love like making that impact. You love just making impact in people.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to get that through event planning, like making those impacts. And then when you planted the seed almost, I was like, oh, I'll eventually get to it. Yeah. And then when I did that, then when that happened, I was like, why not now? Like, this is like the best time to do it.
Yeah.
And honestly, during the last 2 months there, oh man, I updated stuff, but my work ethic.
Of course.
Went downhill.
What did they expect? So yeah, I remember. What do I remember? I remember meeting you at Starbucks.
Yeah.
And I don't remember. Like you must have gotten your notification, but not like it must have been in that 2 months.
I'm not. So I think you had said it in passing or something. We definitely talked about it at Starbucks, and then we got the notification, and then I did it. And I don't think no one knew. I just did it.
Yeah, because I remember telling you that, or I remember thinking, because Aaron and I were planning the gym, and like the gym was going to happen, and I started. I left the Navy and all the nuclear training and stuff that I had, and then I had a good job in the government, and I left all of that, and I felt like I was giving away these careers to pursue being a coach, something that I was like really passionate about. So I was fresh on this mindset of, coaching is a legitimate thing.
Yeah.
And I think like what I remember us talking about was telling you that it's okay if you want to be a coach, and I was thinking about it probably in the swim lesson context, like become a great swim lesson coach, become a great swim coach. Swim coaches don't send a lot of emails, like play to your strengths and explore that area.
Exactly.
And then I remember you telling me you signed up for your L1, and I was like, I remember not thinking that, and like, oh, she took it that way? That's cool.
Yeah. And I would have, if you had told me when I graduated college I'd be doing what I'm doing now, I probably would have laughed in your face and said, no way. Yeah, for sure.
So you, okay, so you got laid off, your work ethic at that place turned to garbage, and then you signed up for your L1.
Yeah.
And did you talk to CrossFit Fairfax? Did you have a plan of
no
what
one,
to do?
No one knew. Like, no one besides, like, you and family knew. I didn't want Fairfax to know. Because I never consider myself that great of an athlete. Like, all the coaches there, good or bad, is, like, just really physical, and, like, that's just not me, as we've discussed earlier.
Well, sure. I mean, like, you're a testament of how far you can go without just raw athletic talent. And you can go super far, you know? Like, you're an RX level, in what, 80%, 90% of the things.
Gymnastics movements, no.
Right, but an RX level athlete, CrossFit, I mean, there's super athletic people who train for a long time, and it takes them a long time to get to that level. And so you're a pretty good CrossFit athlete. You sign up for the L1, And what happens?
So, there was a test at the end of L1, in case you didn't know. Mind blown, if not. And so and unless I went and got some more testing done about dyslexia and all that stuff, reconfirming the diagnosis when I was younger, I was going to get no accommodations. And
so you talked to CrossFit. CrossFit wasn't going to give you accommodations unless you reproved all these things that you had proved when you were a kid. And you were like, whatever. I don't need accommodations.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not going to do, it's not worth it. Right. Like, just for this one test, it's not worth it. So then I was like, I have to study. And because if I can't walk into a test and not do well if I don't study.
Yep.
So thanks to someone who, aka Sean, who's sitting right across, who had just taken the L1, like, he helped me so much. Like, I would have passed, but not as well. I don't know my score. They don't release it anymore. And I don't think I would have passed.
Yes.
Or it would have been harder.
Yeah, so I remember, like, so I was living at home, you were living at home, I was living at home saving money to open up the gym, you were living at home, saving money to whatever, start your life. And and like, every night we were studying.
Yeah, definitely. And then that's how I learned the zone diet, which that I do that later on. I actually start that then to learn it, which helped out so much.
Yeah, your 1 tablespoon of ranch dressing.
Oh yeah. And just learning that, and that's how I learned it, and that's how I did everything. Like, it was so helpful to, like, I took the way Fairfax taught, and I was, like, mentally doing, like, the exercises, because the exercises and the nutrition I learned by doing.
Yeah. And
then the other stuff I had to learn. Like, at one of my last weeks at Volunteer Fairfax was a conference, and I knew my time was done with them, so I was literally in corners, like, getting ready for the test, seeing what I'd memorized, like, okay, got that, didn't get that, the 10, what is it called? The 10 things about CrossFit, the, like, 10 words that you need to memorize for the test, strength, flexibility. I was, like, writing those down and, like, seeing what I had memorized and, like, the curves, the metabolic curves, and all that stuff. I was studying those in a corner of that conference.
That's awesome. So you take the L1.
Take the L1.
And
I passed.
Woo!
Super exciting day.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think it's really cool because you were sort of talking about the arc of you as a student and how when in middle school, high school, you got a lot of accommodations.
Yeah.
Then when you got to college, the accommodations were there, but you had to look for them.
Yeah.
It was a little harder. And then when you got to the workplace, it was like, whoa, no accommodations. And it's kind of like, and it makes sense. I don't have dyslexia, but I could imagine, when you're younger, it's like, all right, let's help you, let's show you. And then as you get older, it's all right, now you help yourself. And then when you get in the real world, it's like, well, like, do it, just get it done type thing. Yeah. Like now you should know how to operate. And so then you got yourself to a position with the CrossFit test where they were like, do all this stuff for accommodations, and you were like, no, I don't need accommodations. I got this. Yeah. And you got it. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. And so you got CrossFit certified, and then what happened after that?
That's when I told CrossFit Fairfax. I didn't want them to know I was going. It took me a few months, but they were like, we'd love to have you as an intern coach. And so I started coaching with them.
So you got this coaching internship at CrossFit Fairfax.
Yeah, and then I was also I went back to giving swim lessons. I'd stopped sometime during my time at Volunteer Fairfax, went back to there, lifeguarding and coaching swim lessons, and dabbled a little bit in coaching USA swimming.
That's awesome. So this internship with CrossFit Fairfax. So again, CrossFit Fairfax is a phenomenal gym, and the owners of CrossFit Fairfax are Maggie and Jeff, and they're on the L1 training staff, and they're phenomenal coaches. And so basically, out of all of the CrossFit, like if you wanted to build a career as a CrossFit coach, CrossFit Fairfax would be on your short list of gyms to intern with because it's that good of a gym. Yeah. And that's where you were interning.
Yeah. just because I was a member. And I learned so much.
Yeah. So what does the internship process look like, and how does that work?
You start off as your first level is you mainly observe and like help athletes one-on-one, and then the CrossFit classes are very much different. Not different in a bad way, just different from our Old City's CrossFit classes, whereas everyone's usually in two lines. The coach is at the center. You usually have two coaches walking around the outside, and they're like you all do the movements at the exact same time. Mm-hmm. So it's very easy to pick out what's wrong, what's not. Mm-hmm. And I love that way. And if you ever see me coach a class, yeah, for sure. I still do it that way. Good way to do it. And I don't necessarily do lines, but I do I can tell stuff. And it was great to just see that, and then in that process you have to do a whole bunch of stuff, write about the movement, because go up beyond the level 1, give coaching cues for the reverse hyper, the back extensions, the fast ones, is what they're called, I forget.
Yeah, sure. And
you go into so much more detail, and you actually get that coaching experience.
Right.
And they highly recommend you learn about the muscles. So I got a color me anatomy book, and I colored all the muscles, and I started to learn about the body and how they're all connected and all this other stuff.
Yeah, so you really started to you started a formal training process to become a coach, right? You started seeing coaching as a career path, and you really started building yourself up as a coach. Yeah. Literally from the ground all the way up, learning the muscles, learning the things. And in parallel, you're starting to take your swim coaching, more seriously.
Yeah, definitely.
You get, what would you say, USA swimming certified?
I get USA coaching certified, and then I'm also giving lessons every time we can give lessons, and lifeguarding just to make a little extra money.
Yeah, for sure. And so all the while, your older brother and sister are planning a CrossFit gym and starting a CrossFit gym. And I remember being very deliberate, I remember thinking to myself, I'm not going to just give Meg a job.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not going to hire her as a coach because she's Meg. I'm going to make her, earn a job. Because I didn't want to, I wanted you to feel like you deserve being in a position, and not just, oh, well, it's my sister, and
it was hard at the time, but now hearing your logic and everything, I totally understand, and I'm very glad you did it that way.
Yeah.
It was hard at the time, but especially when Molly had a job and everyone was working for the gym essentially but me.
Yeah. But yeah, for sure. But you had that internship at Fairfax.
Yeah, exactly.
And so we start the gym, and whatever, we have morning classes, and we start the gym, and we're going, and you're doing your CrossFit Fairfax internship, and you're becoming a really good CrossFit coach. Mm-hmm. When did we talk to you? When did we hire you to start coaching with us? How did that work?
So I got called over for an interview with Sean and Aaron, my siblings, and they're like, yeah, we want. They had brought on Jen Jacobs at that point. And they're like, yeah, we want you to be her assistant coach in the mornings, 5 a.m., 6 a.m., and 7 a.m. in the mornings. And I was Aaron's assistant coach at 7 a.m. because Jen just did those two. First started 5 and 6 a.m.
Right.
And then Aaron came in for 7 a.m.
Yep.
And had an interview. Then I can't remember if I sat down with Jen. I know that was talked about in that interview. I can't remember if I actually did.
Yeah.
And then I started coaching with you guys.
And so you were coaching with us in the morning.
Yeah.
So you were driving into DC from Burke.
Yeah.
Every morning.
Yeah.
What time did you have to wake up for that?
So I don't know what time I woke up. I knew I had to leave the house at 3:51.
And if you left the house at 3:51, you'd be at the gym on time.
Yep. And the best part was it was a little too early to make breakfast, so I cook eggs really fast and cook bacon and wrap it in tinfoil and put it in the car and drive into DC with it, and then eat it. I'd be at the gym about 4:50. And then about 4:40, and we pay our coaches to get there 15 minutes early. And so I was there 5 minutes, and that 5 minutes I would eat the eggs and bacon that I had, and I miss those days because eggs taste like we're bacon flavored.
Bacon flavored. Yeah, that's awesome. So you started coaching in the gym, and you were doing that.
Yeah.
How long were you? I mean, you mentioned it earlier. So what was your sort of coaching expansion? How did that work?
So at that time, I was burning both ends of the candle. I was getting up at around 3:30, then coming into DC, coaching 5, 6, and 7. And then I would, before they asked me to head coach some classes, I would leave and coach CrossFit Fairfax some days. And then I would go over and give lessons at night, some private lessons here and there, and give lessons at Burke Racket, where my childhood pool, the Burke pool is. Burke Racket, to help make more money and like do the swimming thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I would assistant coach some CrossFit Fairfax classes, like the noons, 9:30s, all that jazz. And I would coach at night, and then sometimes I'd lifeguard until 10:30 at night.
Wow. And
Yeah.
then you wake up at whatever, leave the house by 3:51.
Yeah. Ironically, those days were easier because there's a routine.
Yeah.
Whereas now, if I have to coach the 5 a.m. class, it's like completely throws off my schedule.
Right.
And it's so much harder than
Yeah.
it was back then.
You can manage a difficult schedule as long as you build in
Yeah.
the routine with it.
And people ask me how I manage that. Nap times.
A lot of naps.
A lot of naps.
So, what was the biggest challenge for you in transitioning from event planning to CrossFit coaching?
So nothing. It was more, instead of guaranteed income, it was hourly and like more dependent on that. But I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people told me afterwards, like, I thought you were happy with it, but now that I see, now you're glowing. Now I know this is what you are meant to do.
Yeah, and you felt that too?
I felt it, yeah, especially after people pointing out.
Yeah.
Pointing out, it's like, yeah, I am a lot happier. Yeah, I'm not dealing with emails. I'm not sitting behind a computer and working my weakness. Like, doing my weakness. I'm now doing what I love.
Yeah. And
talking to
operating
people.
in your strengths.
Yeah, operating my strengths.
Yeah, that's really cool. So, so you continue coaching. You know, we make you head coach. You know, eventually you leave Fairfax and you start working full time. You know, with us.
Yeah.
And then the next big transition was what? We started doing some kid stuff.
No, it was swim WOD.
That's right. Oh wow, yeah. Cool. I'm glad you remember.
Because you were at the Christmas party with Mindy,
and we found the MSSD pool.
The MSSD pool.
Yeah, and so we started our adult swim program, Swim WOD, and you started coaching with me on that, and that's how we started kind of the swim program.
Yeah.
Right? And so, yeah, that's awesome.
And then at that time, we were also starting the CrossFit Kids because we got asked to do something with school within a school.
Yeah, an after-school program.
An after-school program there. I don't exactly remember. It probably happened similar, but we definitely started swim.
Yeah, for sure.
WOD and kids was kind of the same time. And
so, like, you're magical with kids. Yeah, it's incredible. I don't know how you do it. But it's really.
I don't either. I just talk.
It's awesome, and so we had that opportunity with school within a school, and then you started a CrossFit Kids program with them. So just tell me about that. What did the CrossFit Kids program look like? What did you do?
So way back when I was starting getting all these CrossFit certifications, I knew I wanted to do work with kids. So as soon as I passed my L1, I actually started, I looked for a kids certification in New York City, and I got my kids certification, and ironically, I came in the night before they opened the gym, so I was actually at the first 5 a.m., 6 a.m., and 7 a.m. classes, because I came in from New York City that night. And then with the kids program, it started at school within a school. We were given the opportunity to do it. And it's a lot of squats. It's a lot of just getting the kids used to moving. Because if you don't squat, you lose it. And everyone has a natural squat when they are little kids, and between the ages 7 and 14 there's a trimming process, and if you're not using it, you lose it. And so most people in America will lose it because we're not using it. But so it's a lot of squatting, it's push-ups, and making sure they do full range of motion. Because like instead of push-ups with like little bent elbows, no, I make them go all the way down and go all the way up. And same with burpees, I make them lay down on the ground and then jump up and clap and do full range of motion.
So it's like CrossFit Kids is kind of, I mean, you hear CrossFit and you think barbells and weights and all this stuff. CrossFit Kids is basically just getting kids moving.
Yeah,
and that's
definitely
what the program was.
And teaching, especially the way we were doing it, is getting kids moving, getting them to love exercise and just have fun with it. We would come up with games that every time you got hit with a ball or something to that effect, you had to do a squat.
That's awesome.
Every time you had to go and try and knock cones down. Every time the cone got knocked down, you had to do a squat.
Yeah.
And it's like coming up with fun ways like that to do these games. Crab walk soccer and like doing those games.
Right. So we were doing, you were doing the CrossFit Kids, and the kids loved it, and it was a ton of fun. And then we got other school, like how did it grew,
So
right?
yeah, it grew. We started with school, and then I was talking about the school within a school to someone. They introduced us to Murray, however you say it.
Yeah.
So we started over there. Murray's connected with Tyler, so we had Tyler, Murray, and school within a school. And we were in talks with other schools to get into their schools as well, into their after school programs as well. At that point, one summer we got asked if we did swim lessons. We said yes.
Yeah, and so things got a little crazy at that point. And
yeah.
I think that's the point when we started to realize that we were way overextended, and we kind of had to choose swim lessons or CrossFit Kids. And I think that's kind of when we all kind of like face-palmed ourselves and realized that, I mean, you've been coaching swim lessons for 15 years. We're all collegiate swimmers.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of kids in Capitol Hill.
Yeah. We had looked at it, but just didn't think we could compete with the DC swim lessons and stuff. So
we kind of transitioned out of CrossFit Kids and into swim lessons.
Yeah.
So what was that first swim lesson experience like? Like what?
It was really fun because I had a whole pool to myself. And usually when you're giving swim lessons in an established program, like you have multiple coaches with you, and like I've literally like been so close to groups, like I could hear the other coach talking. I was like, I can't think. Kids, we're kicking over here, so I can like just get my thought process.
Right.
I was alone, and if you've been to the MSSC pool, it's a 6-lane pool with a deep end. I was alone in a pool. I had, oh man.
All the space.
All the space in the world.
And how many kids were you working with that first round?
5.
Five kids.
5 for the older kids and 3 for the younger kids.
And so you were doing, you were in the pool for an hour?
No, like it turned into like
from. Well, but where it started, like the first.
No, because that first time we had it, we were like, oh, if we can fill this first hour, we will have it. Mm-hmm. But then we also, Amy posted it on Moth.
Right.
And so we got 65 kids.
Right off the bat?
Right off the bat. So and so
you were doing, what, 3 hours of lessons?
Yeah, from like 9 to 2 on Saturday.
Wow. And it was just you in the water?
Just me in the water and a lifeguard on deck. And that was Katie Brock.
For 3 hours?
For 3 hours.
Wow. That's awesome. How was that?
That was, I mean, it was a lot, like, don't get me wrong, but it was also different. Like, 3 kids at a time. Like, I had full control of the program, if that makes sense, because I'm the only coach.
Yeah. Was it fun? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But we weren't really using any program at that time.
Yeah, it was just you
just
teaching.
Just me teaching the way I was taught to teach.
Right. And so you've been teaching swim lessons for a long time, and so you start working with these kids. And when you work with kids, you just glow.
Yeah.
Like you
definitely.
You turn on, and you have such a talent when you're working with these kids. You can make anything fun. You could get kids to do their house chores, and they would be smiling and giggling and having fun with it. That's cool.
Yeah.
And so you were
I was doing
on
that,
Saturday?
and then also I was coaching the gym.
Okay.
Still coaching in the gym, the morning classes, and I believe 9:30 and noon.
When you started doing the swim lessons with the kids, and when you started doing the CrossFit Kids, did you notice a difference in coaching? I mean, obviously there's a difference between coaching adults and kids, but did you notice a preference?
Oh yeah, I always prefer kids.
Really?
Yeah, I much prefer kids than coaching adults. I don't know why, I just do. I think it's because adults were more peers, and whereas kids, it's more I get to tell them what to do, and I get to make it fun, but they also have to do it, type of thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm the complete opposite. Working with kids, it's for me. I'm sure for you too. It's really draining and it's exhausting, but for me, it's so exhausting.
Yeah.
It's so tiring.
It is, but once you get in a routine, it's like normal. You have to give out more energy.
Right.
And if anyone has seen me coach CrossFit class, they're very energetic.
Right. For sure.
And you say it best. I flirt that line between coaching adults. When I'm coaching adults, I flirt that line of treating them like kids, and I'm treating them like an adult. It's a very fine line that I walk really well.
Yeah, it's interesting, because you definitely bring a lot of the kid stuff into when you work with adults.
Yeah.
But it's like you're able to manage it with your personality. It's quirky, funny Meg, happy elbows, and all those things.
Oh yeah. Actually, I was talking to someone recently in swimwear, and they're like, I haven't heard of happy elbows. I was like, she's like, what coaches in the gym would know? I was like, KDR and Sean Chua would definitely know it.
Yeah, we got to bring that back.
I agree. I think Jen should bring it back in the morning.
So, okay, so you're doing the swim lessons, and by this point in your life, I guess, I would imagine that you're starting to like find your sweet spot and realize that, wow, this is my career. This is awesome.
Oh yeah.
I finally found what I was kind of meant to do.
Oh yeah.
Is that?
Oh, totally true. I was like, this is all, like, I'm definitely, at this point, I was a lot less writing, still is. It's not a lot of writing. I'm in front of clients. I'm talking to people. I get to help them make a difference in their lives. I'm helping these kids and change their life.
Yeah. And
it's just really cool to see, like, make these changes.
Right.
In people's lives, whether it be kids or adults.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And looking back, so for me, for example, like kind of looking back at my career, my trajectory in my life, like everything makes so much sense. It's like, oh, yep, I should have seen that. I should have seen that. I should have seen that. So when you look back at kind of the arc of what got you to where you are today, is it similar? Are you seeing, oh yeah, I really, like, that's where I notice I really have that passion for working with kids, and this is where I have the passion for, whatever. Like, when you look back, do you see it, or is it more just kind of...
I was always told, growing up, I was like, oh, parents would tell me when working with Summer League, they're like, you're really good with kids. You should consider being a teacher. But my worst nightmare was standing up in a class, and I can't spell something, and, like, these little kids can, and I'm like...
Oh no.
Not for me.
Right.
And I was always told that. And I was like, oh no, I want to manage my own hotel. And I think I realized that I was meant to do it kind of that year that I was coaching at 2 different CrossFit gyms, giving swim lessons and lifeguarding.
Yeah.
Like that year changed my life.
Yeah, for sure. What do you like most? Like, what's clearly you're passionate about, swim lessons and coaching swimming. What have you thought about what the thing is that makes you like fired up about it, that gets you excited about it? What about it makes you
I'm changing people's lives.
Yeah. Like
swimming, to me, the worst nightmare is getting an adult that doesn't know how to swim.
Right.
Like, water is so much fun. If you just like have fun in the water, that's life-changing. Like, you can go to the beach, you can go to the pool, and just have fun. Handstands, cartwheels, and, like, handstands, there we go. somersaults, and just have fun in that water. Like, that's what we're teaching. And if these kids ever grow up to be Olympians or something like that, I'll be like, oh, they started my program. How awesome would that be?
Yeah. So you learned how to swim at a young age, and you've known how to swim, and you've had a ton of fun in and around the water, and so you love the idea of showing people how enjoyable the water is, how much fun you can have in the water. And by the way, it's super dangerous when you don't know how to swim when you're a kid, and you're solving that problem too.
Yeah.
Awesome. So how did the swim lesson program turn from, what was that transition like from you working with, 3 hours in the water to building a systematic program that you're now managing? How did it go from a 1 meg show to like a full program that instead of able to helping 60 kids helps a lot more kids than that, and arguably the quality has gotten better, if not like stayed the same to when you were giving the personal attention to each kid. Now, like, how did you build that program? What did that transition look like?
It was for the next session, Katie Rock watched so many lessons, and she's like, I want to get in the water. And so I started training her to be in the water. She's competitive swim all the way through Air Force, or most of the way through Air Force. And so she had the resume to do it. She knew everything. She just needed to know how to put it in words, essentially.
Right.
And that's what I taught her. So she eventually got in the water with me, and I was teaching her how to coach. So then the next lesson, instead of one coach in the pool, we had 2 coaches. And then we started putting out feelers, Craigslist ad, because people just heard about the lessons and where we're located and free parking in DC.
Yeah. And so the quality of the lessons has started to spread, word spread. You trained Katie. Katie's giving similar lessons, exact same lessons at the same quality as you are, and then you found another coach, and then the program grows like programs grow. If you create a quality thing, it continues to grow.
And then in that process, we were also looking for an accreditation. Like Red Cross is what I grew up teaching, and then Sean and Aaron had an opportunity to do something with ASCA. And that's what introduced us.
And ASCA is the American Swim Coaches Association.
Yeah. And that's what turned us on to Swim America. First, I was hesitant about it, but after really delving into the program, I'm so glad that we went to Swim America.
Right. You learned to teach swimming under the Red Cross model. What does that look like?
So the Red Cross model, there's a whole bunch of different skills per level. Like, they get to practice freestyle.
How many levels are there?
I think it goes up to 7, but no program does all the levels.
Right.
Like, a coach holds you and you do freestyle arms-ish, and a coach holds you and, like, you kick, and you just do a whole variety of skills. And then once the coach feels you're ready and the timing works with the program, is how we did at Burke, once that session's up, then the coach promotes them.
Got it. And then you'll go to level 2 and level 3, and so it's less organized than Swim America. We'll talk about what Swim America is, but it's more dependent on a coach's brilliance.
Yeah.
Like you operated really well in that Red Cross environment because you have a decade of swim lesson experience, and you know what a kid needs to. You can look at each kid and know exactly what they need.
Yeah.
But it would be less effective if you get a new coach who's new to lessons.
And that's definitely how I started out. I remember my first class solo, essentially, giving actual swim lessons, not teaching people like stroke retirement. Mm-hmm. I had 2 twin boys terrified of getting their heads in the water.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
I don't even know where to start.
Exactly. And then I was like, you know what? Let's see if they'll put their ears in. Let's start with, let's break it down. And that's my first solo actual teaching a kid how to swim class.
That's awesome. What's the Swim America model? What does that look like?
So the Swim America model, instead of having a whole bunch of things, we have 2 to 3 skills per level that we're focusing on. After level 1's 1 skill. And after that, we'll focus on that instead of a whole bunch of things. We're working on those 2 things or 3 things each class. And so repetition, it's more repetition. It's getting them better at those couple skills. And the program itself is a building blocks. So level 1 starts with bobs. Level 2 is floating.
What are bobs?
So bobs are putting the head under, blowing bubbles out your nose, making the humming sound underwater.
Yeah.
Because that is the basis of swimming. All swimmers, at some point in their stroke, will breathe out their nose.
Right.
And you can't swim unless you can do that.
Right. And
so we start with that.
And then goes
build
to level 2.
And then goes to level 2 with floating. Then goes to level 3 with kicking. And then 4, 5, and 6 is freestyle. And then 7, 8, 9, 10, we are teaching them competitive swimming strokes, which is awesome.
So the Swim America system is like a very systematic way of literally building a swimmer, like piece by piece.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And you start with the most restrictive part, which is getting comfortable putting your head in the water.
Yeah. Which
is surprisingly difficult, for a lot of people. And maybe it's not surprising. Maybe it makes a ton of sense. It's a scary thing, you know. I think kids instinctually know that the water is a dangerous thing because they don't, they know probably subconsciously that they don't know how to swim and it's a new thing. And so they get exposed to this, and it's the hardest thing first is to get your head in the water.
Yes and no. I think it's the way you grew up, because everyone, it's the way you're taught growing up as a baby. Because if you are not taught, like, there's a distinction between, okay, don't go near water when a parent's not there, but if the parent's fearful, most likely that's when we get the ones, I'm not putting my, no. And it's also what the parents let them get away with at home. If you're not having your kid put their head under in a bathtub, they're not going to succeed at our lessons.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So if a child is exposed to a lot of water growing up, then they're less afraid of it.
Yeah.
But if they're not exposed to the water as a kid, then they're going to come to the water a little more afraid.
Yeah.
So we'll get into tactics that parents can use to sort of set their child up for success in our program or any swim lesson program. But so Swim America starts with bobs, getting the head in the water.
Mm-hmm.
So once they're comfortable going underwater, blowing air out of their nose, then they get promoted. What's the promotion look like? How does that work?
So it's everyone's favorite part. The promotion is once someone on deck sees that they can do it. There's a couple people in our program that can pass. The coach in the water cannot pass. So we see it, they show us, and we're like, oh my gosh, you guess what? You get to go to the level XXX.
So if a kid's in level 1, then level 1 has a test.
Yeah.
And so if they pass that test in level 1,
then we have them get out of the water.
Yeah.
And walk to our table and ring a bell as loud as they can. Everyone claps and cheers, and everyone's so happy.
That's awesome.
And then we walk them back to level 2. So they move up right then and there as soon as they show us the skills.
So it doesn't matter how long they're in the level. Doesn't matter. Nothing matters.
Nothing matters.
Once they have the skill, they get promoted.
Yes.
And they ring the bell.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And then they go to level 2. So level 2 is, what'd you say, glides?
Pushing off the wall and floating on your back and stomach for 10 seconds.
So now that they're comfortable putting their head in the water, they go to level 2.
Yeah.
Level 2 is floating on their stomach and floating on their back.
Pushing off the wall and floating.
Yep. And then level 3?
Pushing off the wall, streamline, kicking, freestyle kick, flutter kick.
Okay, so you get comfortable in the water.
Yeah.
You get comfortable floating on your stomach and on your back.
And pushing off the wall.
And pushing off the wall. And now we're teaching you how to kick.
Yeah.
And so now, once you pass level 3, you can push off the wall, float on your stomach, float on your back, kick on your stomach, kick on your back. And so, for those people following along, you can start to see how, the methodology of building the stroke. And I think what's really important here is that Swim America was developed by the American Swim Coaches Association in partnership with USA Swimming, and is like the swim coaches getting together and saying, let's teach swimming to build high level USA swimming.
Yeah.
You know, where the Red Cross is a bunch of lifeguards getting together, let's teach water safety. And I think it's a really fundamental difference in the two programs, because if you can swim classic swim strokes, then you're water safe.
Yeah.
Right. If you take any competitive swimmer, any high level, any competitive swimmer, basically any competitive swimmer, and then you can put them in the ocean, you can put them in a pool, you can put them in a lake, you can put them in any water environment. Maybe not any water environment, but most water environments, and they're going to be super safe.
Yeah.
So level 3 kicking, stomach and back. Level 4.
Level 4 is sweet spot, so kicking on their side with one arm out and one arm by their side, and then also starting the freestyle arms. And really cool thing in our program, we have a diving board and a deep end. So at level 4 is when I let them go off the diving board. We have kids that like see in level 2 or like low levels and I want to go off that. I'm like, you have to get to level 4.
Once they get to level 4, they can go off the diving board. So a way to think about it is level 2 and level 3, they're learning how to balance on their stomach and on their back, learning how to float, and learning how to stay on top of the water on their stomach and on their back. Once you get to level 4, you're learning that balance on your side, on your left side and on your right side. And then you're starting to move your arms and it starts to look like you're swimming freestyle. Okay. Level 5.
Level 5 is where we teach them to breathe in the stroke.
So up to this point, up through level 4, their head is in the water and they're just moving their body around it.
The sweet spot's done with their head out of the water, so they are breathing during sweet spot. But the freestyle in level 4, they're not breathing.
Right.
So level 5 is when we actually, in freestyle, it's swum by going side to side. So how we teach them how to breathe is stopping the stroke for a little while, having their head up in sweet spot, coming back down and starting swimming again.
Right. So level 5, they're breathing to their side.
Yep.
Level 6.
Level 6 is a full lap of freestyle. Now we take that sweet spot away from them. We don't let them pause as long in that sweet spot anymore.
So now they're, instead of sweet spot, pause, breathe, now it's a quicker breath, and they need to find that balance faster.
Yep. And treading 1 minute with no hands, and then also 30 feet of backstroke.
So we're starting to teach them balance on their back and the stroke on their back.
Yep.
Okay, so level 7.
Breaststroke kick. 30 feet of breaststroke kick. Just a kick, because breaststroke kick, for those non-swimmers out there, is very complicated. Breaststroke for the swimming world has the most rules around it. So we're teaching them a competitive swimming kick.
Yeah.
To be legal.
Yeah. And it's really interesting. Kids naturally either kick with a breaststroke kick, and then learning to swim is teaching them how to do a freestyle kick that's unnatural.
Yeah.
Or they kick with a freestyle kick, and then teaching them a breaststroke kick is super unnatural.
Yeah.
But both kicks are really important. And the breaststroke kick is kind of the foundation of what you use for treading water. With the egg beater, it's kind of single breaststroke kicks at a time, and that keeps you on the surface much more effectively than a freestyle kick.
Oh yeah. We've had people pass with the freestyle kick many times.
So level 7 is
and then a 50 freestyle and a whole lap of backstroke, or a whole 25 backstroke.
So now we're testing for improved endurance, which is really a test for improved efficiency in the swim stroke.
Yeah.
Level 8
is 30 feet of butterfly, no breathing at this point.
Right.
A whole lap of breaststroke, so adding the arms in now, and 100 freestyle.
So more techniques, more strokes, more efficiency in freestyle. Level 9.
Level 9 is a 25 butterfly, 50 breaststroke, and a 200 freestyle.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty far. Level 10.
Level 10 is a 300 freestyle, 100 IM, and 100 back.
So by the time you get to level 10, you're swimming all the strokes that you would swim in competitive swimming legally, which takes an extreme amount of water competency. You're swimming freestyle for 300 yards, which is
12 laps or lengths.
really long. And what were the other requirements?
100 backstroke and 100 IM.
Okay, wow. So your backstroke's really good too.
Yeah.
I mean, everything's good.
Yeah.
But I mean, by that point.
So at this point is when we consider you that you know how to swim.
Yeah.
Anyone can do that. Like, that's where we say you're safe in the, like, not safe, you're safer than when you started our program for sure.
100%.
But that's when we consider you that you can swim.
Yeah. And you can, and certainly you can swim, before that.
Yeah.
But, it's like.
We know you're going to be safe in the water, pretty safe in the water.
Yeah.
Because whether you want to walk onto a competitive swim team, if someone walked on a competitive swimming team with no competitive swimming experience and they did all that legally,
yeah,
coach's jaws would drop.
Yeah, if you're a level 10 swimmer in any Swim America program, especially our Swim America program, you can literally walk onto any competitive swim team in the world and have a place in that team.
Yeah.
And probably not even be the worst swimmer.
Yeah.
You'd be a really good swimmer for that team. At what point would you say most kids are safe in a pool?
I always say once they pass level 6 is when my coaches can get out and coach them from out of the water, because level 6, just that 1 minute treading water, and water no one can touch, and we have the luxury of having a deep end and like 12 foot of water.
Yep.
So I make them do that, and with no hands.
Yep.
That's huge.
And they can swim a 25 freestyle.
And they can get to the other side of the pool with a really good stroke.
And so if you can get to the other side of the pool, and if you can tread water, there's really no pool water environment that's going to be a challenge for you.
Yes and no. I mean, the endurance helps a lot. That's why it's a 300.
Yeah, for sure.
But the being able to get to the other side of the pool is huge. Like,
right.
Don't get me wrong. Yeah.
You could drop a kid in the deep water, and they're going to pop to the surface. They're going to swim and find a wall easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that happens around level 6. Level 6, and it's really cool because the way the lessons are structured is you have all the levels. There's a whole machine that's happening. How many coaches do you have in the water?
11 coaches in the water.
So 11 coaches in the water.
Yeah.
And then what do you have on the pool deck?
On the pool deck, we have greeters greeting, and 2 greeters greeting you when you walk into the pool. And then we have 2 essentially site supervisors. One's the lead and one's the assistant. Passing people, watching for safety. We have a lifeguard, and then one of our greeters is actually around the pool deck, making sure just kids are safe with 2 hands on the wall.
So you have a lifeguard.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's obviously, we all know what lifeguards are. Then we have 2 greeters who kind of run the administration of the lesson. One of the greeters, call them a safety watch.
Yeah.
So they're not a lifeguard, they're not trained to be a lifeguard, but they're just making sure that all of our safety policies are being met.
Yeah.
If you're not being, if a kid's not being worked with, 2 hands are on the wall, and one of the greeters' responsibilities is to make sure that all the kids are following their safety instruction. Then on top of that, we have 2 site supervisors who are the managers checking in with the kids, and it's the site supervisor that passes the that graduates the kids and that moves the kids. So the site supervisors are kind of there for making sure the quality assurance and to promote kids is all happening.
Yep.
And then 11 coaches in the water.
11 coaches, yeah.
So more or less, what's that look like? Like 1 coach for every level?
Usually 1 coach for every level, depends on how it breaks out, but usually we strive for a 1 to 3 ratio.
Yeah. Okay. So 1 coach working with
about 3 kids.
Give
or take. I mean, there are upper levels we do stretch it to 5. Our lower levels, 2.
You need more attention.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, it's really cool to watch because you see the pool, and the pool has all the kids, right? So you have your level 9s, your level 8s, your level 7s, your level 6, all the way down to your level 1s. And it's really cool to see the kid, like the development in a kid there in the pool. You can look at level 1, and then you can look over at level 4 and go, wow, my kid's going to be there at some point.
Yeah, definitely.
And then you can look at level 9 and be like, whoa, my kid's going to be there at some point too.
Yeah.
And it's all of that's there. And I think it's really cool for the kids.
Oh, yeah.
Because now the kids are looking at, oh, I want to go off the diving board.
Yeah.
Or they see their friend working on breathing, and, oh, I want to work on breathing.
Yeah. It's been really cool. We've been doing Swim America for the last 2 years now. we finally have people in level 9. It's the
Wow.
highest level we have, and soon passing too. And with that, like it's typically weekday lessons, so we will have levels 1 to like describing that environment in the pool at one time. It's challenging on some, like from my end, because I have to like change locations to get more lane space, which is awesome. But it's really cool to see like these little kids, and then we'll look over and I'm like, her stroke is great. Like,
Right.
Like just seeing that level 9 stroke or like level 8 stroke and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I was more involved in the super early days when we didn't have many advanced swimmers.
Yeah.
And the really cool thing is that a lot of basically all of our level 9 swimmers like are homegrown. Like we didn't inherit a lot of super talented swimmers. We got them up.
Let's rephrase that. I would say we didn't inherit anyone with a lot of lesson background.
That's a really good point. Everyone's talented. No, that's a really good point. Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And so now we have above, like greater level 6 and above.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of talent in that.
Oh yeah,
in
definitely.
That area.
Yeah.
And then a lot of kids coming up. Is it? Do you notice kids kind of like watching those higher level swimmers? And
I actually never thought about that. I know like conceptually, yes, it happens, but I'm actually gonna bring that back and be like, hey, start pointing out to my level 5s. Watch the level 6s, watch level 9s to get like concepts. And I'd started that a little bit, but now I'm gonna start harping about it a little bit more with the coaches.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like I remember swimming as an age group kid, and then looking over and seeing the bigger kids and how fast they were swimming, and wanting to beat them.
And that's how I was, because I always had to sit through some swim meets of 2 siblings.
Yeah, and so I think it's just a natural thing, and I think that's part of the beauty of the swim program is you have that environment where you have the examples in the older kids that are in the higher levels, and then the littler kids are looking at that. And I would imagine now that we have that whole system in place, that kids are getting through the program faster than they would before.
Probably, yeah.
So what's a timeline like? Because clearly there's some growth the kid has to go through. If you look at the levels 9, 10, 11, you're not getting a 3-year-old to level 9. But if I start swim lessons, what's the age I can start doing swim lessons?
3.
Let's say I start when I'm 3.
Yeah.
What's obviously every kid is different and it changes, and I don't want to like quote you on these things where, but like what's a general time frame for how long a 3-year-old is in level 1?
So assuming that they come in and they will put their head underwater, we're going to assume that, because if not, it takes longer to get the head under.
So getting comfortable with the water.
Getting comfortable with the water.
Getting comfortable with the pool, getting comfortable with the coaches.
Exactly. And the hardest part for a 3-year-old is learning that humming. And like it's saying, like there's several different tricks we use. We use hum their name.
The humming does what again?
The humming forces air out your nose, and it prevents water from going up your nose.
Oh, okay.
And it forces you to close your mouth, so you can't get water in your mouth.
So the humming is the bob, right?
Yeah.
And we're teaching them the right way to protect your face and protect your lungs and everything, and not get water up your nose and not get water in your mouth, and the right way to breathe.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest part.
That's the hardest part. If they come in pretty general comfort.
Okay.
So once they do that, I honestly can't put a timeline on it. But that's the hardest part. Like, if you want to start working with your kid, start working with them and just humming in the bathtub. Getting them to do bubbles, not making sure their mouth is closed, because you can fake it that way.
Sure.
But making sure it comes out their nose. Have them hum their name. I always do. That's one of the tricks I usually get. And the first couple have to be pretty hard, and then they have it.
Yeah. So if you're a parent and you're working with your kid and you want to get your kids into swim lessons, some techniques, what can you do before you get to the pool, or as your kid's growing up, as they're younger, before they get to 3? What are things that you can do with that kid to really set them up for success at swim lessons?
So we have a TOTS program. You can join our TOTS program, and our TOTS program teaches you how to work with your kid in the water.
Okay.
And we teach you how to put their head under and working with that, how to float with them and teaching them how to get comfortable floating on their stomach and on their back. Getting them comfortable about just being in the water.
Yeah.
Because that's huge. If you haven't really been in a pool before, you're like, what is this?
Right. So if you have a toddler, exposing them to the pool, exposing them to water, always a good thing.
Oh yes, definitely.
Yeah. And so, you know, some ideas, like if you're a parent in a pool with your toddler, what are some things to practice?
Yeah.
So you just put your hand on their back and just have them relax and breathe, that sort of thing.
So I always start with putting their head under if you're comfortable with it. If you, especially on the younger toddler side, like 18 months, you can even do it with babies like younger than this. You can blow in their face, just blow in their face really close to the water and put them under.
And what does blowing in the face
do?
do?
Blowing in the face forces them to, for that momentary second, they don't get water up their nose. It closes everything.
So if you blow in their face, it forces them to clench and sort of close their eyes and close their mouth. And
close their nose. So they're not. You
can dunk them underwater at that point.
Yeah.
And then bring them up.
Bring them up and say, and it's always positive.
Yeah,
it's always like, oh my gosh, you just put your head under. Awesome job.
That's so
High
cool.
five.
I can't believe you did that.
Yeah.
Okay, so getting the toddler used to putting their heads in water.
And then I always find floating on the back is the hardest thing to teach, so I always typically start with back. But you can have them start pushing off the wall, like you holding them, and then having their back on your hand, and then whatever hand you have you're holding their back with, that's that shoulder their head's resting on. Yeah. And then your other hand's across them.
Yeah, so you're basically getting them used to being horizontal in the water.
Exactly. And
on their stomachs, on their backs.
Exactly. And you have them, it's 50-50 whether they're going to like being on their backs or not.
Right.
Those are literally the odds.
Right.
And so just getting them comfortable, calming them down, like, not necessarily if they're screaming bloody murder, stop.
Yeah.
But, like, talk to them. Say, like, oh, you're okay. Look, I'm right here. You can feel their cheek right there.
Yeah.
And just walk around. And
just
like point out stuff on the ceiling is what I usually do.
It really just getting your kid comfortable with the idea of being in the water.
Yeah, definitely.
And you're not really teaching strokes or anything. You know, you're just showing them that the water is okay.
Yeah.
It's not a bad place to be.
And if you notice your kid not putting their head under a bathtub, start there.
So that's if you're in a pool, you can start getting their head underwater, start floating on their stomach, start floating on their back. But if you're at home, what can you do? So you mentioned
you can if they're not putting their head under, to wash their hair. Like, just have them start leaning back and washing their hair that way. What I usually do is, before you even start like formal bath time, like washing their hair and stuff, break down the face. Will you put your chin in? Will you put your cheek in? Will you put your ears? Back of the head, further back of the head, forehead, eyes, nose. And then if that becomes too easy, I do combinations. I put different stuff together.
So during bath time, you're just getting your kid used to, you know, it's like a little kid's pool. You know, you're just getting kids used to getting their head wet, and then teaching them humming.
Yeah, definitely teaching them humming.
So if a 3-year-old comes to us who knows how to hum, they're humming rock stars, they're comfortable getting in the water. That 3-year-old is gonna spend much less time in level 1 than a 3-year-old who comes to us who's a little afraid of the water, needs to spend more time warming up with the water, no idea how to hum. So you can set your kid up for swim lesson success in the very early stages by getting them used to the water, teaching humming. And it's really interesting to me because I never thought about that, but humming's a skill just like anything else.
Until someone pointed out to me, I didn't know how I let air out. Until someone pointed it out to me, it was so natural that I just didn't know I was doing it.
Right.
And then once that happened, my teaching methods
for sure,
and everything changed, because I was like, oh. And if you see me coaching like a higher level or something, sometimes I'll get those questions that I don't know. I have to like put myself back into the pool, and like it's muscle memory.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I'm just like, oh, wait, hang on.
Well, and that's a good point, because that's, I mean, what we're teaching these life skills, and these are muscle memory things that we're doing. So, how long, I mean, I don't, obviously, like, I don't want to put a timeline on things, but just for expectation wise, like, level 1 to level 10, are we talking weeks, months, years, decades?
Years. We honestly don't know, because we've had no one graduate our program, but
right.
We are going on 2.5 years of Swim America. Let's go with that. And we're just now getting people out of level 9.
Right.
So it's definitely years commitment.
For sure. And yeah, it's a years thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if they are older, like they're not gonna go from level 1 to level 10 unless you have other swimming background overnight.
Right. Yeah. It's like anything. The more time you spend doing something, the better you get at that thing, right?
Yeah.
If you spend, I mean, the way I learned swimming, I mean, sure, yeah, I got water safe and swim lessons and all those things. I think the first year of swim lessons, I just cried my face off, and my mom took me out of took me out of swim lessons. Like, no, he's not ready. And then I think the next year I was, fine or whatever. And then growing up, I just remember spending a ton of time playing in the pool. Like summers was just I was in the pool all the time, and the more you get exposed to something, the better you get at that thing.
Ironically, going back to our younger sister, she actually had to be taken off her first swim team because she wouldn't let go of Aaron, who was coaching that swim team.
Yeah.
And she turned out to be one of the fastest swimmers in the Emery family.
Yeah, one of, not me. Obviously.
I phrased that carefully because I'm in your presence.
Yeah, Molly's never swam faster than me in anything.
Well, we won't get into that.
Yeah, that's cool. So the swim lesson program, I mean, what ages are you working with? We said
3 to 12. Program. Yeah. Oh, we started 18 months in our toddler program. 18 months all the way to 12 years.
Right. That's awesome. And then at what level could a kid realistically join a competitive swim team if they wanted to?
I'm going to say it depends on the age. So, like, if a 6-year-old gets to level 6, they could probably walk onto a competitive swim team and do well because they're in a lower group that will teach them, that's more fundamental stroke development, especially for breaststroke and butterfly.
Yeah.
A 12-year-old, I would want them to get to, like, 8, finish 8 to learn that breaststroke and butterfly, to know those fundamentally, because by the time you're that age, you're swimming, I have no idea yardage, but you're swimming quite a bit, and you're swimming more of the strokes, and you're expected to know them. Yeah,
so it's realistic if you start swim lessons when you're 3, it's realistic to be 6-year-old, level 6, level 7.
Oh, yeah.
That's feasible?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, I think so too.
I can't say we have any in our program, but, like, I do believe it's feasible.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't know ages.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what's really interesting to me is, and I think this sort of the theme of this conversation is, like, your arc to get where you are is such a cool story, right?
Yeah.
You born with dyslexia, held back a year, you and Molly growing up, she kind of overshadows you in swimming and is, this athlete, and you have to, like, sit there and, like, bite your thumb and watch her set records, and and then school's challenging, and then you go to college, and some challenge and some good things happen, and then you get to the workforce and you get a job, but the job sucks and you don't like it, and then you get another job and you really like it, and then you get fired, and then it's just this whole story brings you to this point where, like, where you are today, at least from my perspective, it looks like not only are you doing something that you are extremely passionate about and that you love so much, that you're uniquely, like, your skill set is so perfect to do the work that you're doing. It's crazy that wasn't what you were doing all along.
Yeah,
you know what
exactly.
I'm saying?
Like I said it before, I would have laughed in your face if you had told me I'm running a swim lesson program when I graduated college, when it really should have been my dream the whole time.
Yeah.
Like, to be running. I never considered, I considered a career, like, going to work, like, putting on formal clothes, like, that's all I saw as a career.
Right.
I never saw swim lessons or swimming or anything in the swimming world or anything in coaching world as a career. Now I get to wear Lululemon to work.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
It's a cool story, and I think one of the biggest lessons that I've learned from you is this idea that every single person has an extreme passion for something, an extreme talent for something, and is uniquely qualified to do something. And so if you're not in a place where, if you're not doing work that you absolutely love, and if you're not excited, and if you're not passion filled, and if you're not excelling at what you're doing, there's a good chance you haven't quite found your final resting place.
Yeah.
Not final resting place.
You'll find your niche, I would say.
Yeah, and you gotta keep looking for it. You gotta keep moving, and you gotta keep looking for those opportunities.
Yeah, and I'm starting to get better at this, but like at Volunteer Fairfax when I was there, I thought I was happy, but I definitely know for a fact I never like internally looked in myself and asked, am I happy? Like, do I like everything about my job?
Yeah.
Like now I like 99% of my job.
Yeah, and I mean, I think finding your passion and finding what you were meant to do on this earth, if you find it, if you're lucky enough to find it and you're doing it, it's still work.
Oh yeah.
Like work is work.
Yeah.
I remember when we started the gym, I'm like, yeah, this is my passion. I love doing this. And I remember pulling up my email and being like, oh no, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, is this not my passion job? Is this not what I'm, meant to do? And it's not like that, right? I think it's when you find a job that fills you with purpose and that you really see the impact of what you're doing,
mm-hmm.
then I think you're closer than if you're just kind of, living a purposeless life in your professional career.
Yeah.
I think your arc is a real testament to that. I think it's really cool.
Definitely. I mean, I enjoy it, and now because of like you and like I listen to you now. I've always listened, but like it's a big brother sister dynamic. And you've helped me find other passions and stuff like that. So it's been really cool to help me find other passions and stuff like that.
Yeah, that is cool. Yeah, you probably listen because I communicate to you in a nicer way.
Yeah, probably.
I can't imagine why you didn't listen to me when we were
younger. Huh.
You don't respond to yell-ats and.
No, I don't.
Yeah, well, cool, Meg. This has been a really awesome conversation. I really appreciate you taking the time.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. Anything to add to our wildly, amazingly huge audience?
No, I mean, I'm really excited. Yeah, I'm just super excited.
Yeah, so if you're interested in swim lessons, check out Old City Swim School. That's
.com.
oldcityswimschool.com.
We have a website now.
Yeah, Old City Swim School on social media. And it's the program that Meg's been running, and it's, I mean, honestly, in my extremely biased opinion, it's the most effective way, it's the most efficient way to get your kid water safe and give them the skills that they need to enjoy a life in and around the water.
Yeah.
And it's an efficient program.
It is.
You can teach your kid how to swim in a lot of different areas, but we're going to get you to your kid's potential as quickly as possible. I think. And it's a ton of fun.
It is a ton of fun.
All right, Meg. Thanks.
All right. Peace.
Awesome work.
I have an idea for you.
Yeah.
You should do the soaring eagle at the end of every podcast.
Eventually when I start mixing.
Oh, I thought you could mix easily.
Well, I can. It's just that's not a bad idea.
I've been thinking that for a while. So if you could start with my podcast.
That'd be cool.
That'd be really cool. Is this your longest one yet?
I don't know.